Alright, so first off, I'm just gonna admit it, I am conflicted over this game. It's a game I really wanted to like. When I was scrolling through the imagery on the eShop and reading a little bit about the description, I was thinking this is like Mad Max Tactics. And as someone who grew up with Mad Max in my life, that was like a dream come true. I mean, I love tactics, I love RPGs, I love adventure, and Mad Max. I mean, come on, deserts, post-apocalyptic stuff, raiders, shooting, old cars. This was gonna be great. But this Cubic Games game, kind of like Tactical Minds, and if you haven't checked that one out, feel free to look at the other review I've done, wants really badly to be a tactics game, but comes across more as a really unique form of chess. And don't get me wrong, Cubic Games does great puzzles. I really like some of their stuff. But as far as tactics, they're not quite there yet. Now moving on into the actual game. In Mad Carnage, you are the protagonist of this band of post-apocalyptic survivors who's trying to rebuild a certain portion of society, or at least protect his people. And through the course of the game, you are encountering battles as you move across the map and fighting off raiders with a complement of vehicles ranging from sports cars to tanks. And as you progress through the game, you encounter new elements of gameplay, like being able to modify your vehicles or having access to new vehicles depending on who you encounter in the game. And also as you play, you encounter at the end or beginning of every single level this new graphic novel storyline that kind of builds along and increases as you go and gets you more and more in depth in what exactly is going on. Because initially you're just thrown into it, just knowing, you're trying to survive, and then it gets to some stuff where it really nurtures some dramatic intrigue. And I gotta say, that and maybe that alone kept me playing for as long as I did. But there are some elements that if you are someone who's into tactics games might actually detract from your gameplay. And that can be anything from the way you interact with your player characters or things that just don't even exist as far as game mechanics go. One of those being the inability to skip a turn. Now, the way the battle mechanic works in Mad Carnage is that you have to move all of your pieces and attack or not, and then the AI moves all of its pieces. So even though you have sports cars that would arguably be faster than a heavily loaded armored truck, all of your pieces go, sports cars, trucks, tanks, and then all of their pieces go. There is no speed element. And the fact that you can't skip a turn means that in certain circumstances, you have to move at least one space, and that could put your piece in jeopardy, meaning that when the AI goes, it's 100% guaranteed that that piece will just not exist anymore. You lose it. And that can actually turn an entire battle. So it leads you to experiment over and over and over of, instead of how to beat the level or how to play your characters well, just how to beat the AI, which turns it from tactics into a puzzle. Another element that's not covered is actually the speed dynamic. If you move your vehicle multiple spaces, you are then at a certain speed, which means you will need to either commit to that speed or slowly slow down through the course of a couple of turns, meaning you can't make sharp turns, you can't stop. If you've just moved 4 squares, you can't move 1 in your next turn because you're going too fast. And that's something that's not actually explained and takes a very, very long time to get used to. And while it is a unique gameplay characteristic, without it being explained, it may be frustrating. Another point that could be negative, but take it or leave it however you see it, is that even though you are playing as a specific protagonist with a band of characters who is encountering and recruiting new members as you play through every single battle encounter, you don't have access to all of these new characters, even though you may be provided the ability to switch or upgrade vehicles or unlock new types of vehicles. With each battle encounter, it is predetermined how many and of what type of vehicles that you are able to use in order to beat this AI in this certain map. Now that again reduces the tactics, team building, base building element of this game and turns it from a tactics or adventure game into a puzzle game, which is a trend that I'm actually noticing with Cubic Games. They are really great puzzle game builders, but their tactics games just aren't quite there. So if you love the graphic novel style, and honestly the story is really engaging, and you can get past some of these elements, you might actually really enjoy this game. And if you're someone who enjoys puzzles, this might be your gateway drug. This might be something that allows you to get into tactics because it is definitely more puzzle than tactics. Overall, the audio really fits with the graphics and the theme. I thought it was really good, but the actual sound effects I thought were, they weren't nearly as engaging as everything else in the game. And the constant little Micro Machine engine noise grated a little bit, especially when I had to replay levels over and over and over because I was just trying to figure out how to beat the AI. The controls are actually fairly intuitive and very simple, though you are limited to using the left joystick to navigate as you're picking your paths through the game. And I think that being a tactics game that works with squares and little tiles of movement, being able to use the directional buttons or a D-pad would have been really, really beneficial, and I don't know why that wasn't incorporated. Even though it has its flaws, the story does have this really cliffhanger effect at the beginning and end of each battle, and I think I might actually play this game all the way to the end just to find out what happens. And I only wish that the actual gameplay and game mechanics could have kept up with the potential that the story has. So if you're into puzzlers, if you're into post-apocalyptic games, you just like indies, or you have a really low standard for tactics games, this might actually be something you'd be interested in. I mean, it's not exactly an expensive game, so feel free to try it out or add it to your collection, but just know what you're getting into. Well, that about wraps up the review of Mad Carnage. If you'd seen this game on the eShop before and considered getting it, I hope this review was helpful and kind of let you know what you might be getting into if you download it. And if you found this review interesting or insightful at all, feel free to throw me a like and show your support, and don't forget to subscribe for the latest content. I put these videos out all the time. It's normally about one every 2 days or so, but sometimes I really get into a game and I just have to put that review out. So if you subscribe and you want the latest updates and you want to make sure you get it as soon as it comes out, don't forget to click the little bell notification, because who knows, I'm pretty spontaneous, but you're gonna get 2 or 3 of them a week at the absolute minimum. Anyway, this has been Budget Gamer, and I'll catch you in the next review.